Hi, this is Ruby Williams from the Sober and Lit podcast. I joined Adam's group coaching because I had a growing podcast, but needed help turning listeners into actual clients and building a clear business strategy around my show. With Adam's help, I simplified my offers and learned how to use each episode as a marketing asset with CTAs that feel authentic and not pushy. My favorite part is how practical everything is. You leave every session with Adam knowing exactly what to do next, and he truly cares about your success. So, if you want your podcast to support your business instead of just having it be a hobby, Adam's your guy. I highly recommend him.
What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach podcasters simple strategies to help you grow your audience and turn your podcast content into new clients. Pod Pals, what is up? We got a podcast growth tips guest coaching episode with my pod pal, Sue Willoughby, a newly certified podcast growth coach, stepping into the coach's seat. And it's kind of nice. I know that I've gotten good feedback from these episodes where I have one of my students, one of my proteges, step in and work with one of you audience members and help you grow your podcast. And people that are getting the tips are applying them and getting great results. So that makes me feel good as a mentor for all my podcast growth coach certification clients. So one thing before we dive into this one, I am cooking up a workshop that's going to be called Podcast Content to Clients. So if you are a coach or consultant, if you have an online business and a podcast, and you are using that podcast, hopefully to get new clients, that workshop will be for you. We're aiming for the end of April, so probably about a month from when this episode goes live. I'm still ironing out the details, but make sure you're on my newsletter list if you want full first dibs and get the full info on that Content to Clients workshop. What's that? You're not on my newsletter list? Hit the link in my bio, and the newsletter link will be in there. And for those of you that are new to my world, in the traditional podcasting space, I think a huge mistake that a lot of you are making is that your newsletter is just a promotional email for your latest podcast episode. I believe this is a huge mistake. I believe this is an error that will cost you new clients. So every week, obviously, you're listening to the latest episode. These audio podcast episodes come out on Tuesday. Every Thursday, I put out a fresh, out of the oven newsletter on a totally different topic. So if you only listen to the show, you're only getting 50% of my best tips, advice, and strategies for podcast growth, for listener client conversion. So you're missing out. All right. I'm trying to create the fear of missing out right now. So hit the link in the show notes, get on the newsletter so you don't miss out. You can get the information on that workshop coming up in April, or you can just go to the main website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. So today we are doing podcast growth tips. Coach Sue Willoughby, newly certified podcast growth coach, stepping up. Without any further delay, let's kick it over to Sue.
We're here for a coaching session, and you have indicated to me today that you need some help with your podcast and your podcast growth. And I know that your audience is millennial women, right, that are going through and the name of your podcast is
Pivot season.
Right. I like that. I want to start off by saying that I love your graphic, right? Your cover art is very strong. It's really important to have the words be the star. So many people, because when people are looking at them, it's only a tiny little square. And if there's a picture on there and a lot of text and all this other stuff, they don't know what they're looking at. So your title is very clear. There's your first gold star for today. Cheers. I love it.
I was inspired by Adam, of course.
Of course.
My
Shout out
last,
to Adam.
yeah, my last artwork had a big picture of me.
I think we all go through that phase, and I too went through a rebrand, and you did a mini rebrand, so you changed your title, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But first, I want to just tell you what I really love about your show. I love the cover art. I think it's very strong. It's bright. It's right there. Pivot season. I've got it pulled up on my other screen. The other thing I love about it is you do mostly solo episodes or all solo episodes right now, which is great, especially as a clarity coach, identity coach, right? Clarity and identity coach, I believe is how you refer to yourself, which is awesome. Um, Doing solo episodes is a fantastic way for people to get to know you, understand how you might be as a coach, and also to just get a feel for your personality, right? And they're going to be drawn in. What I loved about I listened to your most recent episode just now, and we had this conversation before we got on the recording, and I loved that you had story involved. Story was the bulk of the episode. You told a story about how when this episode was scheduled to drop, you got laid off that day. And the story that you told was so relatable because I had been in that situation multiple times. And I knew that when I got that email late at night for an emergency or not emergency, but a full company meeting at a certain time, I'm like, here it comes. I better bring a vehicle large enough to take all of my stuff home with me. And that was exactly your story. And you had a beautiful setup. You went into the story, you talked about fear, you talked about your anxiety, all of the things that you were facing, and then you did a beautiful wrap up at the end. And you closed it with, here's what we talked about. Here's some tips and tricks. Here's some tools that you can take away from this episode. So I thought the whole thing was beautiful. Now, the problem that I see is that not enough people are hearing your amazing content.
Yes, I agree.
So we want to talk about how we can possibly change that. Now, you have changed it to, it was called The Lighthouse Within, I think, or something before.
Yes.
I had a similar thing with my podcast where I used to call it A Life Worth Being, which was the tagline for my coaching practice, which I thought was lovely. But I found myself explaining to everybody what it meant.
Relatable, very relatable.
Not super helpful when you've got a podcast and you're like, why isn't anyone listening? So you changed it to the pivot season, and I understand that. These are your words. You said you work with my target audience is millennial women who want to feel brave and at peace enough to pursue making life changes that they're dreaming of and stepping into a new chapter. Love it. Okay. So the name of your podcast is Pivot Season, Self-Discovery, Navigating Change, and Reinventing Yourself. That's a great title, and I think it's greatly improved from The Lighthouse Within. What do you think is missing from that title?
Ooh, I feel like probably the who. I feel really like emotional about this because I feel like some people listen to my show who are not millennial women. And I wonder if I would like alienate them by saying that. Um, yeah, because I'm like a good 20% of my audience isn't millennial women.
That's 20%. What about
Yeah.
the 80%? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that, and I understand your fear. I hear you saying, I don't want to scare anybody away. I don't want to, and the thing is, your content is very strong. Your stories are very relatable. I am clearly not a millennial. I'm probably your mother's age, but I totally related to your story and your energy and your passion, and your presence behind the mic is very strong as well. You don't sound, a lot of people have a hard time with solo episodes because there's nothing to bounce off of, but you seem very comfortable. And like I said, very relatable. So I'm not surprised that a portion of your audience is not millennials. And I'm going to tell you something else. I changed the title of my show from A Life Worth Being to Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, because that's my target audience. Now, other people listen to my show as well that aren't necessarily in midlife. So, so I'm just running that past you. How would you feel about, bringing that in? I have a suggestion actually. Let's I just went to Apple Podcasts and I did a search. I just searched millennial women to
Mhm.
see what came up. Because if I put in midlife women, there's a ton of podcasts that come up with that in the title. Millennial women, there's only like a handful that come up in the search. There's one called Millennial Women Talk. I don't know if you've seen that or not. That's, kind of a co-hosted show, and it sounds like it's just a little bit more playful and they're just chatting kind of a thing. You have amazing content that needs to be that is also aligned with your coaching practice. So you want to be able to reach more people, bring them into your sphere, right? So let me ask you this. What if you changed it so that it was really very specific about who you and keeping, I love the pivot season. What if you called it like a pivot project? I mean, you could still
Mhm.
use pivot season. That's not, off the table at all. But what if you called it like pivot project? Something like pivot project, reinvention strategies for millennial women.
Reinvention. I do like that as
Strategies.
a tagline.
Yeah.
Strategies.
Something that has like tools or strategies or something around that because you are providing a lot of content that has a lot of value and that does have a lot of actionable tips and strategies for millennial women and just for people in general, because I listen to your content and is very applicable to any age,
Yeah.
right? Because fear and women, we all have a lot
Yes.
of fear and we don't quite know how to get over that because I too focus on, women in midlife also trying to make transitions and trying to do that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
something along those lines. You can just kind of play with that. You can still, you may, if you want to stick with pivot season, maybe just change the secondary thing to bring in a few more keywords. And some of those keywords are, reinvention strategies and millennial women,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it really does help to identify your audience
How
and call to them.
I think something I get really stuck on is like, how do I know what the right keyword is? Like, is reinvention, pivot? And I feel like I got so stuck on that for so long. Is there
Mhm.
like a way to know?
I think what you can do is you can do some research
Mhm.
and come up with a really good keyword bank of keywords. And then also your show description could be rewritten to then pull in more of those keywords that you find in your research and elaborate on that a little bit so that it's really a lot more SEO heavy, but also that speaks more directly to your content.
Okay. How much how much does like the episode title affect my SEO?
It does as well. Yes.
Okay.
And I was just let's look at some of your titles here. Um, Breaking free from the comparison trap, 5 powerful lessons. But you've got some good words like mastering fear, trusting yourself, and, tough seasons. Uh, you can pull out more SEO friendly words to put into your titles. And if you use AI, you can run it through AI and ask for some research for the keywords, first of all, that relate to your topics. You may want to download your transcripts, or if you have the transcripts from your shows, and upload them and ask for what are the keywords. You can also do Google searches for what are millennial women searching for these days in the self-help realm, because you are in the
Mm,
self-help realm. You're a coach.
that's a good idea.
Do you have any testimonials from your clients?
I do. Yes.
Mhm. Are they written or spoken?
Um, mostly they're written. Um,
Okay.
yeah, mostly they're written.
Okay. You can read them yourself I would incorporate them in my show because they are actual testimonials. You may also reach back out to your clients and have them set up a little thing on SpeakPipe where they can easily record a testimonial for you. And then you play that at the beginning of your show. Hi, I'm Sue, and I've worked with Amber on this, that, and the other thing, and it's really made a difference in my life, blah, 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 whatever it is. I was part of her XYZ coaching program, and eh, that's somebody else talking about what happened to them as a result of your coaching. And that's the very first thing somebody hears when they tune into your show.
I love
And then you
that.
roll into the show.
Yeah, I love that idea. You said SpeakPipe? Okay.
Mhm. The way SpeakPipe works is you just kinda give them a little script that they can read from or, so that they're not rambling on for a half an hour. And that's great that they love you that much, but you want it to be short and
Right.
sweet, or you can pop it into your show. And it's nice because then you already have the audio. Without the audio, you can always read that as well. You can read a testimonial, so you can share it with somebody. And the other thing is too, your coaching programs. What are your offerings?
So right now my main offering is called the Pivot Season, and it's a 90-day coaching program for women to find out who they are now, what they really want next, and to step into their next reinvention.
Mhm.
I also have an ebook that I'm considering revamping because it's called Make the Decision, but I've been running my coaching program now, and I'm realizing that two of the biggest hurdles that my clients face isn't necessarily around making decisions so much as it is around trusting that that decision is a good decision. And so it's more about
Mm.
self-trust. And I'm also seeing that another hurdle is around feeling like the goal is so big and so far away that it feels impossible. And so I'm considering revamping Make the Decision. Inside, it talks about things like anxiety and intuition, or knowing whether you're forcing something or fighting for something that is worth, pouring so much energy into. And I'm like, maybe I should revamp that same content, but include more things to be around like improving your self trust. Um,
Mhm.
so that's like an ebook that I have. So it's kind of like a low ticket offer. Um, and then I don't know, I was wondering if I needed like something kind of in the middle, like a strategy or a challenge, or I don't know. That's where I'm at currently.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's great. And what I was thinking is as you're talking about the different things that, in your content, like when you're talking about fear or anxiety, you can refer to your coaching program or programs, whichever,
Hmm.
you want to do, or to your ebook. In my ebook, I talk about blah, blah, blah. So you're basically just dropping it into the conversation. You're not saying, get my ebook now. Then they're gonna be like, "Oh, she said in her ebook she talks about that. How do I get that?" Or, in my coaching program, How to Tame Anxiety for Millennials or whatever you wanna call it, in module 3, we talk about that, where we do that, or there's an exercise in there. So people are gonna get curious because they're like, "Oh, she talked about her program, and I wonder what her program is," and then refer them to the programs. That's a great way to, and also through the testimonials. This person that's gone through your signature program. Have them tell you, "My name is so and so. I was in Amber's signature program, and this was my result, and I feel I had this transformation, or I had this improvement." Whatever it is, uh, because then they're hearing about the program. They're hearing what the problem was they were dealing with and what the outcome was.
Hmm.
That's amazing right there. So that
Yeah,
they
I
they
love
have
that.
all of those pieces. I think that talking about and dropping into your content information about just offhandedly referring to your coaching program, then tell people at the end. You can say, if you're curious about XYZ program, book a curiosity call or book a discovery call or do whatever, sign up for my newsletter. Whatever your call to action is, don't give them more than one
Okay.
because people get confused. And if you have something coming up, I mean, you could even put your call to action And I think you did something at the beginning. You said something like subscribe, uh, and you didn't wait until the very end. And then at the end, you just reiterated subscribe and all of that. So that's all good. How many people do you have in what's your mailing list look like?
I have around 80 people in my mailing list.
Okay. Okay. Are you doing a weekly mailing list to your newsletter?
Right now I do monthly.
Okay. Well, now you have more time on your hands.
Yes, I do. I sure
Okay, sorry, I
do.
didn't mean to rub that in. Yes. You might want to consider a weekly newsletter because you can pick a topic. You can also use the content from your episodes to create newsletter content, right? Repurpose that content, create a content flywheel from that. You can use the content from there to do blog posts, to create threads posts or Instagram. Where do you do most of your social media?
I am on Threads and on Instagram, but I do feel like
Okay.
I get the majority of my leads on Threads.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Amp it up.
Yeah, I
No, I think that's great. Yeah.
yeah, I started posting on there more starting last week, since I got laid off. And I saw in 10 days I've gained an additional 300 followers and then like more subscribers. So it's an insane
Awesome.
platform. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're using it properly, you're going to see that kind of growth. So big another big gold star for you. Please keep doing that. If you're seeing a response, keep doing it. If something's working, keep doing it rather than, the shotgun approach where you're all over the place. So if that's working for you, yeah, keep doing it. Absolutely. And you can do now the ghost posts. Have you seen the ghost posts? Okay.
Yes.
And that's kind of a way that you can sort of drop a promo in there and then it just goes away. Because as you know, the algorithm doesn't like it for self-promotion. It's more about, creating the conversations and so forth. But the ghost post, you can plop something in there and see what happens.
I like that. I never thought about it for
Mm,
promotion, but that's a good idea.
yeah. Just subtle
Yeah.
promotion. What other questions do you have around some of the stuff? Now you can also, a lot of that is all organic
Mhm.
discovery. With the SEO, changing the name, posting on threads, doing the things that feel good to you. Um, I also know that you had said that you do biweekly, right?
Yeah.
And you were having some trouble with consistency at one time.
Oh my goodness.
Now that
Yes.
you're now that you have more free time, would you consider if you're going to do it every other week, that's great. Just make sure it's consistent. If you feel like turning it up a notch, what about a weekly show?
I was considering doing a weekly show and then maybe bringing on guests in between.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was curious about potentially bringing on women who have like gone through a big reinvention journey. Just because I feel like personally, I think those things inspire me to keep going, like, oh, it is possible. And so I thought that that might be a good way for me to keep it going because sometimes I feel like I really enjoy doing my solo episodes, but I feel like sometimes it takes like deep reflection to write them. And so it
Mhm.
feels like it's not always easy for me to like have a deep reflection every week. And so I was like, okay, how can I amp it up without like kind of like draining that? Because I also
Right.
feel like it's the part that I love about my show. But yeah, I don't. What do you think?
I love your solo episodes, and I love that you love them because that is really important to build your coaching business from those solo episodes. The other thing that you could try, if you're going to have a guest scenario, right? The bulk of your episodes should be solo, and then periodically drop in a guest that's going to provide a lot of value that aligns with your current content, and like you said, has gone through a transition themselves that they can speak to. I speak to a lot of midlife women who have gone through a lot of things and come out on the other side. So I do mostly interviews and very few solos. So I need to start doing more solos. We can swap.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you wanted to bring a guest in on your show, how would you feel about doing a live coaching session with them?
I wonder how would they feel about that?
Well, that's a good question. You have
Yeah.
an audience, right? You have an audience. That could be one of your call to actions, or you could start
Mm.
putting it out there in your episodes and offer that as, a live coaching session or a hot seat session or whatever you want to call it. Um, and see what happens. Because that would be like an interview,
Yeah,
and it would also really spotlight your coaching talents.
true. Yeah. I feel like I've, like, shied away from it because 'cause I'm like, sometimes my clients, like, cry in their like, not because I've
Yeah.
made them cry, but maybe they cry around something they feel shame about or, like, guilt about, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if they'd be willing to have that." But I guess I could just record it and be like, "If you don't want it to be shared, I don't have to share it."
Yeah. But I think some people might be willing to be vulnerable, and that's
Mhm.
really where it comes from. And the thing that when people are willing to be vulnerable, it's extremely relatable because there's somebody else that's listening to that podcast that's going, they're nodding, they're crying right along with this person. So if you have clients that are willing to give it a shot, then that would be great. And maybe it's more around something that they're going through a transition, like a job or
Mhm.
something else, right? So that's a suggestion that you could do. And
That
with your guests, make sure that they're dialed in, that they're relatable and all of that, that it's a good fit for your show. Don't just have somebody on to chew the fat. The other thing is you may want to do guest appearances yourself on other people's podcasts. So other relatable podcasts that have a similar audience. They don't have to do the same thing that you do exactly, but they have a similar audience. And if you're making guest appearances, you get to promote your own show. You get to talk about your coaching. You get to talk about your own transitions and your own pivots that you've done. So then you're in front of their audience now. You're doing audience swap with them.
how would
And there's
you
lots of
recommend?
places you can
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say where would you recommend looking for the right shows?
There's some inexpensive matching kind of things. There's Podmatch. You can also just look up other podcasts and start pitching them, start sending them letters. Podpitch is the other one that I use, and that's an automated system where you create your pitch letters, it sends them out, and people respond. Had some really good response from that as well.
That
There's
sounds
lots of
great.
different ways you can do it, and just talk to other podcasts that you listen to and pitch yourself to them.
Yeah, I
What the
love
heck?
that.
What are they going to do? Say no?
Right.
What are they going to do? Say no? All right, as we're getting ready to wrap up here, I'd love it. Could you give me, let's see, 2 takeaways that you got from our conversation today?
Oh my gosh, so many. Okay, definitely going to consider changing my name and making it more focused for millennial women. And I really loved some of the promotion options that you gave me, like improving the CTA, working better with the weekly newsletter, and definitely the guesting opportunities on podcasts.
Awesome. All right. Amber, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Do you have any last questions for me?
No last questions. You've given me so much to work with. I'm so grateful for your time and just your kindness as well.
Oh, I love it. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I love your show. I wish you all the success. Do me a favor and give a shout out. Give me your name, the title of your show, and whatever else you want to shout out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Amber and I'm the host of the Pivot Season. It's your guide to navigating the messy middle as a millennial woman who is going through reinvention and a life change. And you can also check out my free reinvention starter kit that will help you kickstart your change without all of the stalled pivots and self sabotage.
I love it. Where do you hang out? Do you have a Instagram or Threads?
Yes, you can check me out on Threads and Instagram. It's the same handle, and it's Amber Paloma.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Amber, it's been a pleasure. I wish you all the success with your podcast. And if I can be of any help to you in the future, please let me know.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm Sue Willoughby, host of Midlife Strategies for Badass Women and the founder of Willoughby Coaching. Quick question. How much longer are you going to sit on the idea of starting a podcast? If you're a midlife entrepreneur, real estate agent, or someone who knows you've got a message, but you keep overthinking the tech, the timing, or you're hung up on who's even going to listen to you, I see you, I hear you, and I've got you. And more importantly, I can help you move forward. So head on over to willoughbycoaching.com and book your podcast success call today. We'll map out a strategy, help you get clarity, and get you behind the mic. The link is in the show notes. And remember, your voice matters, so let's use it.